Chapter 3. The Ancient of Days sat upon the throne, his form veiled in light so radiant that no created being could fully gaze upon him and live. His robes shimmered like liquid gold, flowing endlessly into the river of life that cascaded from beneath the throne, feeding the farthest reaches of existence. The air surrounding him was alive, shimmering with the purity of holiness, and carrying a weight of love so vast it seemed to fill the entire expanse of heaven. His presence emanated warmth and awe, a paradoxical blend of intimacy and untouchable majesty. It was not just a throne, it was the axis of all that is, the center from which life itself radiated. Around him arced the great rainbow, its colors alive and pulsing, singing a symphony of their own. Each hue seemed to carry a voice, soft, harmonious whispers of eternity's praise. The walls of the inner court reflected this divine brilliance, formed of living crystal that refracted the light into cascading prisms, their splendor dancing in unison with the melody of angelic voices outside. Beyond the court, the golden streets of heaven stretched out in serene perfection, bathed in the light of the throne that never waned. The fragrance of the space was unlike anything describable, a mingling of living waters, celestial blossoms, and the faint incense of worship, a scent so rich and layered it stirred the soul to adoration. And though all heaven pulsed with this unending praise, within the inner sanctum, a sacred quiet reigned, a stillness reserved for the most intimate communion between the Father and the Son. The melody outside grew stronger, a chorus of "Holy, holy, holy is the Lord God Almighty." The voices of angels rose and fell in perfect harmony, weaving together the unending praise of heaven. It was a sound that resonated with the deepest parts of the soul, a song that seemed to reverberate through the golden streets, the sapphire courts, and the far reaches of the cosmos. But within the inner sanctum, a weight rested upon the hearts of the Father and the Son. The room itself seemed to respond to the gravity of their conversation, its warmth shifting to a quiet stillness, as if creation itself awaited the words to come. The Father spoke first, his voice like the rolling of an infinite ocean, steadfast, profound, and filled with love. "My son," he began, his tone both loving and solemn, "the time has come. The new creation must begin. Our light will shine in ways even heaven has yet to behold." Michael, the son, stood before him, his own form glowing with a light that reflected the Father's essence. His countenance was serene, but his gaze held the weight of understanding. His robes, woven from the brilliance of the throne itself, rippled with hues of the rainbow, as if creation itself longed to be near him. "Yes, Father," Michael said, his voice steady yet tender. "This creation will reflect the fullness of your glory. Its beauty will proclaim your name to the farthest reaches of eternity." The Father's light brightened, though it carried a tinge of sorrow. "And yet," he said, "we know what this freedom will cost. Love cannot be love if it is not chosen freely, and where there is choice, there is the possibility of rebellion, of suffering." Michael's gaze faltered for just a moment, and he lowered his head. "Lucifer," he said quietly, the name falling from his lips with a mixture of love and sadness. The Father's light dimmed slightly, as though mourning. "Yes, my son. He who was once the bearer of light, now shadowed by pride and envy. He does not see that my lifting you up does not diminish him, but fulfills my purpose." The room seemed to grow heavier, the weight of sorrow palpable even in the perfection of heaven. The Father's voice softened, carrying the pain of a parent's unyielding love. "He questions not just you, my son, but me. He accuses my government of tyranny, of denying freedom, and though it grieves me deeply, I cannot simply silence his voice. To do so would validate his claims. The universe must see, must understand. Only then will peace reign eternally." Michael stepped closer to the throne, his golden eyes shimmering with emotion. "Father, what must be done? How do we prepare?" The Father's light pulsed, his infinite wisdom intertwined with infinite grief. "We must allow his rebellion to run its course. The universe must witness the cost of sin. To destroy him now would leave doubt in the hearts of those who love us. They would wonder if his accusations were true. No, my son, the rebellion must unfold." Michael's voice trembled with quiet resolve. "And for humanity, when they fall, as they surely will under his deception, what provision will be made?" The Father's light grew brighter, but there was no mistaking the sorrow within it. "They will fall, my son. They will believe his lies. But we will not leave them without hope. From the foundation of this new creation, the plan of redemption will be established." Michael's expression softened, his love for creation shining through. "I will go," he said simply. "I will take their place. Whatever the cost, I will pay it." For a moment, the light of the throne grew so brilliant it seemed to spill outward, touching every corner of heaven. The angels outside faltered in their song, a brief pause in their hymn as if they, too, felt the weight of the decision made within. Then their voices rose again, stronger, more vibrant, as if infused with the very love that had just been spoken. "Oh, what wondrous love is this," the Father said softly, his voice trembling with adoration and sorrow. "That you, my beloved Son, would offer yourself for those yet unformed." Michael stepped forward, kneeling before the throne. "It is my joy to do your will, Father. To reveal the fullness of your love to all creation is worth any sacrifice." The two sat in silence for a moment, the bond between them so profound it was as though the universe itself held its breath. Outside, the angels' song swelled, a holy chorus that echoed through the sapphire courts and golden streets, a testament to the harmony that still reigned. Beyond the inner sanctum, far from the throne, another heart stirred with unrest. Lucifer stood on the outskirts of the gathering, his radiant form still unmatched among the angels. Yet within him brewed a storm of envy and resentment. The words spoken within the sanctum had not reached him, but the weight of his own pride and dissatisfaction pressed heavily against his soul. The golden streets of heaven glowed with a light that seemed alive, pulsating softly as Michael stepped out of the inner court. His expression was serene, but there was a weight in his eyes that no angel could see. He moved with quiet purpose, his robes catching the hues of the great rainbow that arced over the throne room, shimmering with the promise of eternity. Around him, angels paused in their work, bowing in reverence as he passed. Their faces radiated joy, their wings shifting with the faint hum of their worship. Michael smiled warmly at each of them, yet within his heart, a quiet ache stirred. The rebellion had begun, unseen by most, but already casting shadows in a realm of perfect light. As he approached the sapphire court, the air grew vibrant with color and sound. Banners of light swayed gently, reflecting the living fire that crowned the spires above. The scent of celestial blossoms lingered, mingling with the faint, metallic tang of the river of life nearby. It was here, standing among the brilliance, that Michael saw Lucifer. The morning star stood tall, his presence commanding, his wings catching the prismatic light and refracting it into dazzling bursts of color. Lucifer turned at Michael's approach, his lips curving into a smile that was polished but hollow. His golden eyes held a spark of something that Michael knew well, too well. "Michael," Lucifer greeted, his voice smooth, almost silken. "The celebration, what a triumph, truly, a masterpiece. Your counsel, as always, has guided us all. This day will be remembered for ages." Michael returned the smile, stepping closer with an ease that spoke of genuine affection. "The celebration was beautiful because of you, brother. Your vision, your artistry, your attention to every detail. It reflected the Creator's glory in ways words cannot describe. For a moment, Lucifer's expression softened. But then, like a shadow passing over a flame, a flicker of something unreadable crossed his face. "You are kind to say so, Michael. Though I am but one among many, my work could never rival the radiance of the throne." Michael's eyes rested on Lucifer with a depth of understanding that seemed to pierce through the practiced facade. He placed a hand gently on Lucifer's shoulder, his touch steady, grounding. "Lucifer, you are deeply loved. Your gifts are unique, a reflection of the Creator's light in ways only you can express. Never doubt your place here." Lucifer inclined his head slightly, his smile unwavering. Yet beneath the surface his thoughts churned. Deeply loved. And yet I am always a step removed. I was not brought into the council. I was not entrusted with the creation. Why must he, always he, stand above me? Michael's voice broke through Lucifer's inner storm, light and inviting. "I was thinking, perhaps before the next celebration, we could spend time together. There's a stream near the Crystal Sea, perfect for swimming. We could share a meal, talk, like we used to." Lucifer's smile widened, his expression gracious. "I would enjoy that. It has been too long since we've shared time together." Michael nodded, his warmth unwavering. "Good. We will make it happen. It is always a joy to spend time with you." The conversation drifted, and as they spoke, Lucifer's questions became more pointed, veiled in curiosity but edged with a quiet intensity. "This creation project," he asked, his tone measured. "I've heard whispers. Surely you can share some details with me? It must be something extraordinary to require such a celebration." Michael's eyes twinkled, but his response was gentle and guarded. "All I can say, brother, is that it will be the pinnacle of creation. The Creator's glory will be revealed in ways we cannot yet fathom. You will see it soon enough." Lucifer's smile remained fixed, but a storm brewed within him. "Of course. I look forward to it," he said, though his voice carried a faint tension. Michael placed a hand on Lucifer's arm before turning to leave. "Thank you again for the celebration, brother. It will be remembered through the ages. You have a gift that brings heaven joy." Lucifer watched as Michael walked away, his form glowing with the light of the throne, every movement imbued with a quiet majesty. The angels they passed greeted him with adoration, their faces bright with love. Lucifer's golden eyes followed him, and the smile on his lips faded into a thin line. The pinnacle of creation, he thought, his mind echoing the words like a bitter refrain. "It should be mine. I was made the morning star, the light bearer, the reflection of the Creator's glory. Why is he always exalted, always trusted? What have I done that I am left outside the council, kept in the shadows while he walks in the light?" The air around him seemed to grow colder, though heaven remained as radiant as ever. Turning from the sapphire court, Lucifer made his way back to his own dwelling, the prismatic light dimming as it passed over his wings. In the stillness of his own thoughts, he resolved one thing. This creation will not stand as his triumph. I will show heaven what they cannot see. I will show them the truth. The morning star is the rightful light. The hum of angelic voices still rose in harmony across heaven, but for Lucifer, the melody had turned to a discordant whisper. A single thought, dark and insistent, coiled itself around his heart. They will bow to me, or they will bow to no one. As Lucifer returned to his dwelling, his mind raced with thoughts of discontent. The streets of heaven were as radiant as ever, the light of the throne reaching every corner. Yet to Lucifer, the brilliance now felt oppressive. He stood by the crystal sea, its surface shimmering with the colors of eternity, and gazed at his reflection. His wings, his form, perfect in every way. And yet, he was overlooked, excluded from the councils that shaped the future of creation. Within him, a voice whispered, "Are you not the morning star, the bearer of light? Why should he, the sun, hold all authority? You are just as worthy. You have served faithfully, commanded legions, and reflected the Creator's glory. Why not you?" Lucifer's wings flared as he turned away from the water, his thoughts darkening. "The angels adore me. They follow my commands without hesitation. If they knew the truth, that the Creator's government is not as free as it seems, they would see reason. They would see that I am right." And so, the seeds of rebellion took root. Lucifer, the morning star, began to weave his web of discord, whispering his discontent to the angels closest to him. The light of heaven continued to shine, but within its brilliance, a shadow began to form, a shadow that would soon threaten to consume all that was good, all that was holy. The love of the Father and the Son remained steadfast, but the universe stood on the precipice of a conflict that would forever alter eternity. The sapphire court buzzed with a tension that had never been felt in all of heaven's eternal existence. Whispers filled the golden streets, winding like an unseen current through the ranks of angelic beings. There was no visible discord. Heaven's harmony still echoed in the music of the choirs and the brilliance of the great rainbow. But in quieter corners, questions, concerns, and even doubts began to surface. The celestial city, once a sanctuary of pure light and unity, now felt slightly fractured, as if a faint shadow had dared to creep across its radiance. Raphael knelt among the glowing vines of his garden, the melodic blooms releasing soft harmonies as the breeze stirred them. His hands moved gently, tending to the plants, but his usually serene expression was troubled. Gabriel approached, his stride deliberate, his face a mask of concern. "Raphael," Gabriel began, his voice low as he settled beside his brother. "The murmurings grow louder. Even the stars seem quieter tonight." Raphael let out a slow breath, his golden eyes fixed on a particularly vibrant bloom. "I feel it too," he admitted. "I've spoken to angels I've known since their creation, and they are confused. Some even question why Lucifer, our morning star, was excluded from the council." Gabriel's jaw tightened. "Lucifer has always been a beacon among us, his light second only to the sun. But now, his words carry an edge. He speaks of fairness, of freedom, as if the Creator's love is not enough." Raphael plucked a petal from one of the flowers, its glow dimming as he held it in his hand. "What pains me most is how compelling his arguments sound to those who are not grounded. He is eloquent, persuasive. He speaks of a new government, one where freedom reigns without what he calls servile submission. Some are listening, Gabriel, and some are agreeing." Gabriel's eyes blazed. "Submission? He calls love and harmony servility? It's madness. Does he not see that the Creator's government is built on the very freedom he claims to champion?" Raphael turned, his expression soft but firm. "Many do not. They are blinded by his light, by the beauty of his words. They see his radiance and believe that perhaps he is right." Gabriel placed a hand on Raphael's shoulder. "We must stand firm, brother. The Creator's justice and love will prevail, but we must be voices of truth among the doubt." In another corner of heaven, Selaphiel sat atop a pillar of living crystal, his copper wings shimmering in the light of the throne. Below him, angels gathered in hushed clusters, their voices a murmur of confusion. Selaphiel's usual playful demeanor was gone, replaced by a somber reflection. Cassiel approached from the distance, his 6 wings folded tightly against his back. The High Seraph's presence was calming, his piercing blue eyes filled with both understanding and resolve. "You are quiet today, Selaphiel," Cassiel said, settling beside him. Selaphiel sighed, his gaze fixed on the river of life as it wound through the courts below. How could this happen, Cassiel? How could one so bright, so beloved, harbor such thoughts? Cassiel's voice was steady, almost clinical, as he replied, Lucifer has allowed his heart to be clouded by pride. His gifts, his brilliance, he has turned them inward, using them to exalt himself rather than the Creator. Selaphiel turned to Cassiel, his eyes filled with anguish. But he's not entirely wrong. At least, that's what some are saying. They ask why the Son is given such authority, why Lucifer was not consulted. I've even heard some question whether the Creator's love is as unconditional as we've always believed. Cassiel's gaze hardened. And what do you say to them? Selaphiel hesitated. I remind them of the harmony we've always known, of the love that binds us. But their questions linger, Cassiel. And sometimes, I don't know how to answer them. Cassiel placed a hand on Selaphiel's shoulder. Truth does not always silence doubt, brother, but it stands firm. Remind them of what we know to be true, that the Creator's government is one of love and freedom. Lucifer's path will lead to ruin, though he cloaks it in the guise of liberty. Selaphiel nodded, though his heart remained heavy. I only wish we could reach him, Cassiel. I wish he would see reason. Cassiel's expression softened. As do we all. But Lucifer has made his choice. And now, each of us must make ours. The streets were alive with quiet conversations, angels gathering in twos and threes to discuss the growing unrest. Some spoke in hushed tones, their faces filled with uncertainty, while others stood firm, their voices resolute. One angel, Theriel, stood at the center of a small group, her golden hair catching the light as she spoke passionately. The Creator's love has always been enough. Why should it change now? Lucifer's words are dangerous, and they threaten everything we hold dear. A younger angel, Raphael, shifted uncomfortably. But isn't it natural to question? Lucifer only wants transparency, fairness. Is that so wrong? Theriel's expression softened, but her tone remained firm. Transparency, fairness. Do you not see that these are excuses to sow division? The Creator's love is transparent. It is written in the very fabric of our being. And fairness? What could be fairer than a government built on love and freedom? Another angel, Uriah, spoke up, his voice calm but tinged with concern. But some of what Lucifer says resonates. He speaks of a freedom beyond what we've known. Shouldn't we at least listen? Theriel's gaze swept over the group. And what then? Do we listen until doubt takes root in our hearts? Until we no longer recognize the love that binds us? Be careful, my brothers and sisters. Lucifer's light blinds, even as it shines. Meanwhile, Lucifer gathered his sympathizers in secret. His words were honeyed, his demeanor calm, almost fatherly. He spoke of a brighter future, of a heaven where no one would bow, where all would be equals. They call it rebellion, he said, his voice rich and commanding. But I call it freedom. Why should we bow to the sun? Are we not all reflections of the Creator's light? Should not each of us have a voice in his council? The angels around him nodded, their faces a mix of admiration and unease. Some were fully convinced, while others lingered on the edges, torn between loyalty and doubt. Lucifer's smile widened as he saw their responses. Do not fear, he said, his tone soothing. We are not rebels. We are reformers. Together, we will create a new heaven, one where love is not bound by servitude, where freedom is not limited by law. The gathering murmured their agreement, though a few hesitated, their hearts heavy with the weight of their choice. In the courts of the throne, Gabriel, Raphael, Selaphiel, and Cassiel met in earnest. Their voices were low, their faces etched with sorrow. We must act, Gabriel said, his tone urgent. Lucifer's influence spreads like a shadow. If we do nothing, more will fall into his web. Raphael nodded, his expression grave. But what can we do? He refuses to listen, and those who follow him grow more entrenched with each passing day. Cassiel's voice was calm but firm. We stand as beacons of truth. We speak with love, with reason, and we trust the Creator's plan. Selaphiel looked at his brothers, his copper wings drooping slightly. But what if it's not enough? Gabriel placed a hand on Selaphiel's shoulder. It will be enough. The Creator's love is always enough. The four angels bowed their heads, their resolve strengthened even as their hearts ached. The rebellion was unfolding, and the weight of eternity hung in the balance.